Hello and welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set the master EQ on a Yamaha PSR E463 keyboard. Let's start with the question, what is EQ and why do I care about it? This is a chart that shows the frequencies. Down here on the bottom, you have the frequencies. The different frequencies of a human singer or instruments in an orchestra. Here we have a bass guitar. Here we have drums. And so we all understand this, that different instruments have different frequencies. Some are very high and some are very low. With EQ, what I can do is I can go in and I can manipulate. I can emphasize or highlight certain frequencies. Maybe what I want to do is I want you to hear the singers above the rest of the instruments of the orchestra. So I can highlight those frequencies of the singer and mute the frequencies of the other instruments, as an example. So EQ stands for equalizer. And let me give you a little demonstration of how that works. I've done a screen recording of my Macintosh running a music program, a song in GarageBand. And here we see the frequencies are being displayed. And what I can do with my mouse is I can begin to manipulate. For example, here I'm going to grab the middle frequencies and increase them. So I'm highlighting them. And here I'm decreasing the high frequencies. And over here I'm manipulating how loud or how prominent the middle or the lower frequencies are. So I can shape or I can sculpt and I can emphasize or de-emphasize certain frequencies to bring out certain instruments, or maybe to highlight the singer above the rest of the band. So that's what EQ is all about, changing the frequencies of the sound. So how many EQ settings are there on an E463 keyboard? And by the way, this is all on page 52 of your owner's manual. Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is there are only 6 settings. That's it. Only 6. The good news is there are only 6 settings. So it's very easy. You don't have to learn lots and lots. You don't have to have a college degree in sound engineering to set this up. There's only 6. So what are the 6 EQ settings on an E463? And the name pretty much tells you what it does. Number 1, the speaker. This is what I want to set if what I'm using is the built-in speakers of my keyboard. This will get the maximum quality sound coming out of those built-in speakers. If I plug in my headphones, and I have 2 or 3 really good I have a headphone I spent over $1,000 for. When I plug that into this keyboard, I want the very best sound possible going into those headphones. So setting number 2 is for headphones that are plugged in. Number 3 is boost. And what boost does is it emphasizes and increases the bass. You know, there was a song, all about the bass, all about the bass. And a lot of people like that bass. They like that loud thumping of the drum or thumping of the bass guitar. So boost increases the bass. Number 4 is pretty obvious. If what I'm playing is a piano in my main voice, I probably want to set the EQ to number 4. That's the best settings for a piano. However, maybe what I like, and I do, I like a bright piano. So one of the settings is called bright, and what it does is it increases the high frequencies, which makes the sound brighter. Just the opposite is mild. And what mild does is it decreases those high and low frequencies and makes the music, I'll use the word, much more muted. So who decides what the EQ settings should be? I mean, who sets up those 6? Is it something I set up? No. Yamaha. Yamaha made these decisions and they built these settings into the keyboard. Now, Yamaha has been at this music business a long time. They've been making musical instruments for 125 years. And today, Yamaha is the world's largest musical instrument company in the whole world. My friends, they know everything about music. For example, they make guitars and violins and violas and cellos. They make every instrument of the band: trumpets, cornets, flutes, piccolos, oboes, French horns, tubas. And they make some really, really good pianos. So if you want to go out and buy a really nice Yamaha guitar, you better bring $18,000. If you want to go play in the band and you want to go buy a really, really nice Yamaha trumpet, guess what? You need $125,000 to buy the state-of-the-art Yamaha trumpet. How about a piano? You've decided you'd like to have a grand piano sitting in your living room? Well, you better have $225,000 on hand, because that's what a Yamaha grand piano could cost you. My point is, Yamaha knows everything about music and sound. So I am perfectly happy to let the sound engineers at Yamaha set up these 6 EQ settings. So what does the EQ setting affect? Well, it affects the main voice, which is usually what I play with my right hand. It affects the split voice. It affects the dual voice. It affects the style. It affects the grooves, if you're creating and making and playing grooves. And it affects the demo songs or any MIDI song that you bring in off of a USB thumb drive. So can I go in and can I set the voice at bright and set the style at mild? No. Whatever you set affects everything. It's all or nothing. So once you have it set up, every sound coming out of that keyboard is going to have the same EQ. Got it? All right, so how do you set up the master EQ settings? And the good news is, this is really simple. You're going to know everything you need to know in the next 90 seconds. So there's a button right here on the keyboard. Let me zoom in so you can see what it is. So step number 1 is press and hold the melody suppressor button. And when I say hold, I mean for at least a couple of seconds. You see this little circle with an arrow pointing down on it? There are 11 buttons on the keyboards that have this little circle underneath them. And what it means is, if you reach out and tap this button, click, it's the melody suppressor. But if you press and hold the button for, let's say, a couple of seconds, then it is the master EQ button. And over here, if you tap it, it's the demo button, but if you hold it down, it's the BGM, the background music button. So 11 buttons on this keyboard have dual functions. Click it, and it's this. Press and hold it, and it's that. So when you press and hold this for a couple of seconds, this is what you're going to see on your screen. It is going to go into the master EQ type settings, and it always starts with setting number 1. And by the way, once you set this up, it stays in there forever until you either come and change it or turn off the keyboard. then it goes away. You cannot save these master EQ settings from day to day. When you turn off the keyboard, they all go away. All right, so press and hold this, watch your screen, and this is what you will see. So how do you change them? Step 2 is rotate the rotary dial to select which EQ setting you want. And I've told you there are 6. So you sit here with your finger and you spin this around as you watch your screen. And what you will see is number 2, headphones, number 3, boost, number 4, piano, number 5, bright, or number 6, mild. Just sit here and spin this clockwise or counterclockwise, and you can sit here and dial through all 6 of their settings. Now let's say I want bright. So I dial in until I see 5 bright on the screen. You don't have to push any button. Once you settle on one of the settings, that's it. It is now locked in. So just use the rotary wheel to select what you want and then stop. And it is now set. You don't have to press a button to lock it in. And it stays there at that setting until you either come back here and choose another one or turn off the keyboard, and then it all goes away. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to learning how to play the E463 keyboard? I mean, is this EQ something that is very, very important and everybody who buys this keyboard needs to know this? Nope. This is a 1, my friend. This is not need to know information I'm giving you. This is sort of interesting to know or nice to know. You could buy this little keyboard and play it the rest of your life and never, never, never even know about the EQ settings. So this is one of those things that, okay, it's there, and if you want to go play around with it, be my guest. But there's lots of people who have never ever touched this and never will. So how do I personally use the EQ settings? 4 different ways. Number 1 is when I plug in my fancy schmancy headphones, I want to set this to the headphone so that I get the very best quality sound coming into those headphones. Number 2 is if I set up my main voice to be one of the 10 or 11 different pianos, I want to set up the piano setting on the EQ so I get the very best piano sound possible. Sometimes I like my piano to be brighter. I like a bright piano. Or sometimes if I select a guitar, I want to brighten that guitar so it kind of stands out. So I use it to brighten the guitar or the piano voices. Other times it's just the opposite. Maybe what I want to do is I want to sing. So I want to soften everything. I want to soften the style. And maybe I'm playing the melody and I want to soften that so that my voice stands out against the style. Those are the 4 ways that I use EQ. So when you change the EQ settings, does it sound a lot different? And the honest answer is not really. My friends, this is very subtle at best. I'm not even going to bother demonstrating these because, quite frankly, the vast majority of you watching this YouTube will never hear it. If you're using an iPhone or an Android phone, or if you're using an iPad, or even if you're using a Macintosh or Windows computer, the speakers in your iPhone and your iPad and your computer, they are probably not good enough to listen to this YouTube and hear the difference in the 6 settings. Oh, if you came over to my home and if we plugged in my headphones, then you will hear it. But on the little speakers and your little iPhones and your iPads, you won't hear it. So I'm not going to waste your time having you watch a demonstration of this. You just have to be there. Now that you know it's there, you can go play with this and decide, is this something that is worthwhile for me to bother with? The answer may be no. And then again, when I plug in my headphones, I like to get the very best sound possible. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and be well.